Are you ready to take your business to the next level and make the money you want so that you can create the impact you desire? Then you're in the right place. It's possible to run a successful business built around your life. Get ready for a little bit of tough love and a whole lot of strategy to grow your business without sacrificing your sanity. If you're ready to get out of your own way and step into the role of CEO, then let's go. I'm Amy Traw, and this is the Motivated CEO Podcast. Welcome back into the Motivated CEO Podcast. Today, we are talking all things email marketing with Allison Hardy. She is truly a guru in this field. So make sure you get your notebooks out, get ready for some massive value and takeaways because this episode is going to be fire. But before we dive in, I would love to welcome in Allison. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Amy, thank you for having me.
Yes, it's so great to have you here today. Could you share more about yourself with our listeners, who you are, what you do, and who you serve?
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Allison Hardy. I live right outside of Washington, D.C. in Arlington, Virginia. I have a husband. I have two kids. One's in fifth grade, one's in kindergarten. And we have a very, very full life.
Yes, I totally can relate to that.
That's a good way of saying we're legit busy. Um, And so, one of the things that I really struggled with when I first started my business was seeing consistent sales. And when COVID hit and my kids were home for 18 months, I was like, what in the world am I going to do? My work days went from like 5 hours to 2 hours. And I was like, I don't know, like, what am I supposed to do? And my husband was a chaplain at a hospital and got stationed to the COVID wing during that
Oh,
time. So it was a lot. There's a lot
yeah,
going
there's
on.
a lot going on.
And yeah, we had a lot. And I was like, I need to figure out how to run this business in the 2 hours that I have every day. So that's where email marketing really came in. And I'd always leaned on email marketing, but I never really had to by that point. So that was like my first like trial by fire. Like, we're just going to do email marketing and that's it. And while it was really hard and it was a lot, it grew my business. And I was like, okay, we're onto something. And so I started taking this methodology that I developed and doing it with my one-on-one clients. And then I was like, okay, it worked here. And then I was like, okay, let's do it with my mastermind clients. Okay, cool, it worked here. And then I was like, let's start a membership and really like do this with more people. And so I started a membership called Funnel of the Month Club. It's a year old, which is amazing. And I now help coaches and experts sell their course, their membership on autopilot through email marketing.
Which is amazing. And for those of you listening that are like, you know what, email marketing's dead.
Mm.
Allison is here to prove that no, that is just a myth because you made a boatload of money last year just off of your email list, off of those sequences that you've developed with your methodology, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We had one email. I have a proprietary like pitch sequence process. And we had one email in that 7 email sequence that brought in $80,000 in sales, just that one email. So like, while people may say email marketing is dead, I am proof that it's not. And my 400 clients last year in the membership are also proof that it's not. So email marketing is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's the most algorithm proof method of selling your thing you can actually find. And I think if you're not using it, you're leaving money on the table.
Oh, definitely. And, like we were talking before we hit record, email marketing, it's a long game. It requires a lot of strategy. So, can you walk us through? Okay, where do we even start? So, say you're an established business owner, you're bringing in money, you have a list, but you're really not doing anything with that list, which is pretty common. Where do we even start to get
Yeah.
strategic?
Yeah. So I would start with just being consistent. I know like everyone hates that word, like this dreaded C word, but like consistency will create you as top of mind. It will help you to, when someone's thinking, oh, I have this problem and I want to solve it, and you're consistently showing up in their inbox, whether or not they're reading the emails or not, you are still there. You're still top of mind. You're showing up on a regular basis. So what I find a lot of times, and I have a client in my mastermind who she started the mastermind and she's like, I have like 5,000 people on my email list and I'm not emailing them. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, What can we do? What are you doing? Where's the content? Where are you hanging out in the online space? And she was like, I'm on Instagram. She's like, I have no problem creating content on Instagram. It's so easy for me. And I get really great engagement. People DM me, people comment. My Instagram account has been growing like gangbusters. And like, that is where I like to hang out. And I was like, okay, can we just take what you're doing on Instagram and put it in an email? And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, so we pulled up like her Instagram account and there was like a three things post. And she talked about like one thing a lot. And I was like, can you just take that one thing and turn it into an email and email that out to your list? Like just pure value. I was like, and then maybe like call to action to visit the Instagram post to get the other two things. And she's like, oh, that's so easy. I was like, yes, like there's no need for us to like reinvent the wheel. There's no need for us to like do a ton of extra work, but you're probably already, if you're an established business owner, you're probably already creating content somewhere that you could probably just repurpose and use as an email. So like if you're not sending anything at all, I would start there. And the goal could just be email once a week. So take like your best Instagram post or your best podcast episode or whatever the thing is you're doing and just turn it into an email. And that's a really great jumping off point.
Yeah, I love how you said consistency is key because that's the non-glamorous side of business. It's doing the boring, the mundane over and over and over. It's just repeating those basics. And also, you said, we're not reinventing the wheel. And as business owners, I feel like so often we're overcomplicating everything when the
Absolutely.
reality is no one's paying as much attention as we think they are.
Yes.
We feel like we're a broken record. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's normal. You have to be because it's ridiculous the number of touch points it takes now for you to stand out before someone is ready to buy from you. So that's why I love how you said that. Okay, number one, consistency is key. But number two, stop making it so complicated. Stop reinventing the wheel. That's the one thing I love. Like, I'll even do this with the podcast content. I'll take that long form content and just break it down strategically. Like, I'll wait like a week or two, but everything you see in my emails, if you track it back, you can track it back to my podcast, which is also going to funnel over to social media. Stop
Mhm.
over complicating it because
Yeah,
you need this, right?
absolutely. And I think that like going back to what you said, like nobody's paying attention to us that closely.
Yeah.
So like part of being consistent is not only like reps, right? So one time a week, two times a week, whatever it is, it's that consistency in that messaging and that consistency in what you're saying and telling people and the invitation that you have to make over and over and over and over again. So that's another part of consistency is that consistency in like what it is that you're actually saying and what that call to action is. So just because you send out one email and you ask people to do one thing one time, that's not consistency. You have to continually ask them to do the thing over and over and over again. And that's just
Yeah.
the belly of the beast. Like that's just how it is in the online space now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to hear your take on this. Are you selling in every single email or are you putting different calls to action in? What does that process look like for you? Because people are very divided on this. I have some people that are like, I want to sell in every single email that I'm in front of those people. And there's others that are like, well, no, there's a place and a time for that. What is your take?
I think selling has different definitions.
Mm-hmm.
So one call to action in selling can be like buy my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Another call to action in selling could be like download my lead magnet, which puts them into your email funnel, which then sells your thing. Another one could be like listen to my podcast. And on that podcast, maybe you talk about a digital product. So like selling, I think has lots of different definitions, but I do think you should be selling in every email. And whether it's like straight up buy or it's download or listen or consume, whatever the thing is, there's always a sell. They're always getting people to do something. And I do think just for habits, there should be something for people to click on in every single email. So like you don't want the first time someone's clicking on something in an email to be like a buy. You want them to get into the habit of clicking. And when you create that habit of clicking early on in the relationship with maybe a podcast or an Instagram post or a lead magnet, they're going to continue to click because that's just how they've been told to interact with you. So the first time you're asking them to buy something is not the first time they're going to be clicking on something. You don't want to have to create a new habit and get them to buy something at the same time. Like just get them to buy something.
Yeah. It's sales psychology 101.
Yeah.
Love your take on that. I don't think I've ever heard it put in that way. And that's such a unique perspective. And that's important to remember. We're selling ourselves a lot of times.
Mhm.
We always think that we're selling the product, we're selling the service, but we're selling ourselves. We're providing value. We're moving people through that nurture sequence because it takes a while for people to build know, like, and trust. And now more than ever, a lot of people have been burned in the online space. So I think there's a lot of skepticism like, well, can this really work for me? Is this person really legit? And is this the best investment for myself and my business right now at this point in time? So I love that you said that. Like, just get in the habit of creating some sort of a clickable item, whether it be a opt-in, a freebie, something else to further move them into your world to get to know you. Fabulous, fabulous perspective. Now, I want to know, what are some of your insider tips for like improving our open rate? Because yes, we're getting those emails delivered, but some people may notice, you know what? I have this email list, but nobody's actually opening my stuff. What advice can you give that woman?
Yeah, I think split testing your subject lines can be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
So what that means is you send an email out on Monday with a certain subject line. And then maybe you resend it to unopens on Tuesday with another subject line. And you track who like the stats you get back from those. Now, the problem with that is that theoretically, that second email, the unopens, the email to the unopens, those people are probably not as engaged as the first round of people. So like take that into consideration. Some email marketing softwares like ConvertKit, for example, I know does this because I use ConvertKit. They actually send out like a split test. So like let's say there's 3,000 people on your email list. You can say 1,500 people are going to get this subject line, 1,500 people are going to get this subject line, and they will actually like split test it for you right there in the send, but not all email marketing softwares do that. So test, track, and record. And some just like very tangible takeaways, things with numbers generally tend to do really well from my experience. So like how Amy grew her email list by 1,000 people in 2 days. Like that's like, sign me up. How do we do that? Right? Like, yes, that's a very tangible, very clear illustration of the results that you saw. Um, Things like transformation from $0 a month to $5,000 a month in 6 months. Again, more numbers, but again, that's a transformation. So showing like where people went. I find like how to works really well. So like how to grow your email list by 1,000 people in 2 days. Like that works really well. Or because then it helps them to see like the work that you've done. Things like that, like things that really like, oh, like you want to create that curiosity, like, oh, tell me more. Oh, how can I do that? Or do this if you want to, and then whatever that transformation is. It has to evoke curiosity. And people are constantly getting emails, right? So it has to be like good enough to capture their attention. And so by showing like the transformation, by showing the numbers, how to do this, it helps to make it seem not so hard, and like a
Yeah.
step-by-step kind of process. Like I have the answer for you. I have the fast track for you because that's why people invest in, you, Amy, or in me, is because we give them the fast track. We help them to get to the transformation sooner. That's the pro of investing in something. So anytime you can help them to understand that process, the better. And there's also a really great tool put out by the American Marketing Institute called the Headline Analyzer. It's aminstitute.com/headline, not an affiliate. It's totally free. And what it does is you can actually plug in your subject lines and it'll analyze it for you. So it'll score it. It'll give you like a percentage and then it'll actually categorize it. So you might run your subject lines through that tool. And while maybe it scored really high in like the emotional category, for whatever reason, your people just didn't respond to it. Okay. So then you resend the email out and you get it to score like the same amount, but it's more of like the intellectual category and your people respond to that. So that just might tell you that your people respond more to that intellectual subject line than maybe the emotional one. So like also categorizing them and using that tool can be really helpful too.
That's really good. And I love how you talk about split testing because as business owners, so often we're forgetting to use the data to drive our decisions. And
Absolutely.
this is like my soapbox that I step up on all the time. Use the data at hand. Your email list, no matter what provider, gives you analytics. Leverage those. See what emails that you've sent have a high open rate. See what has a high click through rate. Really get curious and leverage that data for growth. Now, speaking of growth, in order to grow our email lists, I feel as though over probably the past year or two, it's not as easy as it once was. It used to be, I'll create just this short little checklist PDF and I'll grow my list. Or I'll hop into this summit and my list will grow.
Mm.
But now we have to deliver even more value. So, what is your perspective on list building and growth of your list? What are people really opting into right now? What's actually working?
Yeah, anything that saves them time, I think.
Yeah.
So, and I think this has actually always been the case. I don't think this is anything new. So, like my most popular internet famous lead magnet is the $80,000 template. So it's a singular email that was responsible for selling $80,000 worth of product last year. Okay. So the reason why it works and the reason why it converts really well is because it's a fast track, right? I give them the actual words and then I give them a template so they can plug in their information and send it out. Now, that email was so incredibly successful because of everything else that came before it and after it also. So like, let's just call that out, right?
Yeah.
But it gives them a snippet of my process, a very small snippet. And I think that's also really important. So when it comes to your lead magnet, if it can save someone time and it gives them a little taste of what it's like to work with you and it's not overwhelming, that's even better. Because I think like years ago, like pre 2020, we needed to give a bunch of information. So like instead of that singular email, I probably would have needed to give like the whole pitch sequence process. But I think post 2020, people have no attention span anymore. It's just not there anymore. So we have to be really careful not to overwhelm them. So things kind of needed to get smaller. So I think like bite-sized, time-saving pieces of information.
Yeah, right there. That is gold. Again, it goes back to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Don't overcomplicate it. Give them that quick win. That's what we're looking for right now. We want to collapse time because we're all busy. And like you said, our attention spans are horrible. I think there was research last year or year before that came out that said our attention span is now less than a goldfish. Like, how crazy is that as a human that a goldfish has a longer attention span than we do? But knowing this, we can use that to our advantage and leverage it for growth. Absolutely brilliant. Oh my gosh, Allison, you dropped so many gems of wisdom. How can we get into your world? How can we download that amazing freebie that you have and get a taste of the transformation that you provide?
Yeah. So the $80,000 template can be found at AllisonHardy.com/80000 email. So go ahead and grab that. You'll get the word forward email. You'll understand the strategy behind it. And then you also get a template so you can plug and play and use it in your next open cart sequence. I hang out mostly on Instagram. So it's Allison_Hardy_. And then you can listen to my podcast, the Six Figure Secrets podcast. And that's on all the platforms.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your secrets with us today.
Thanks for having me, Amy.
And until next time, cheers to making the money you want so you can create the impact you desire. Are you loving what you're hearing? Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode.